Okay, so let's start. Hi all, welcome to StackRoot webinar. This is Durai from StackRoot. I'm the practice head for Cloud and Digital here in StackRoot NIIT. Today, we are going to have the webinar on the future of data sharing in B2B and B2C ecosystem. We have our own mentor and the panelist from the GSI organization being here actually as part of this webinar. So before getting into the webinar, let me take you guys through what StackRoot is all about and what we do. Then I will hand it over to Nivati to take it forward. So, so these are our portfolios, not limited to programs to specific areas. We cater to GSI, GCCs, and consulting companies. We handle variety of programs right from bootcamp to leadership programs. We are having expertise in delivering architectural transformative programs and leadership programs. So these are some of the portfolios which you could see here actually in the slide. So Brandon Hall Awards, or we can say Oscar Awards actually, for companies in edtech space. These are some of the Brandon Hall Awards that we got for different programs, transformative programs, deep skilling programs, the leadership programs, data science programs. You could see actually year after year, actually we get the Brandon Hall Awards, which shows the kind of trust that the customers have on us, because Brandon Hall Awards are applied by the organizations which gets the services of us. Actually, it's a together activity which leads to apply for Brandon Hall Award and getting it. So these are some of the Brandon Hall Awards that we got in 2025. Okay, so the topic for the day, it's the future of data sharing in B2B and B2C ecosystem. So data sharing is no longer an operational afterthought. It has become a strategic growth lever. So across industries, enterprises are shifting from, in fact, isolated data silos to ecosystem-based data collaboration, internal optimization to network-level value creation, static reporting to AI-driven real-time intelligence. The context basically varies from B2B to B2C. In B2B context, data sharing fuels supply chain resilience, joint innovation, and performance optimization. In B2C, it's completely different, where it helps to hyper-personalize experiences, predictive engagement, and trust-based customer relationship. So we have our experts here in this panel. We have Ravi Chandra, Pavan, and Devashish, who are the guest speakers, and we have Nivati, who is from StackRoot, who will be hosting this webinar. Nivati is an executive coach. He enables founders and CXOs to lead scalable organizations, high impact organizations. He's a strategic transformative, helps in strategic transformations across organizations. We have Ravi Chandra, who is a principal architect, data and analytics Cognizant. We have Pavan, who is a principal architect at Cognizant, and Devashish, chief architect, data analytics solution lead at Cognizant. So I request Nivati to take this webinar forward. And over to you, Nivati. Thanks.
Thank you, Durai. Thanks for the great introduction and setting up the context for the webinar. So welcome all. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from. So this is a very So timely webinar on a specific topic, especially on data sharing between B2B and B2C. And we are seeing a lot of that happening probably with or without our consent, depending on where you are currently placed as a citizen across the globe. Right. So with that said, probably I'll quickly start with a simple question in the chat, and I'd like to hear from you all. How many of you believe that your organization today is data driven? Just quickly, if you can respond yes. You don't need to provide your organization name, just you can say yes, no. Okay, I could see trying to be, yeah. Yes, also there are a couple of yeses, or three rather, 4, 5. Awesome. I think quite a few organizations are moving towards, data driven or building the data driven culture. But the next question is, how many of you actually believe that the data that you have in the organization is good enough for you to trust it completely and make decisions without a need for validation? So I see one no. Thank you, Bharat, for being so open and honest. Need validation. We do data labeling. Okay, we are trying to solve that problem. Yeah, we are seeing that, right? While we say we are data driven, one of the very principal elements of being data driven is the ability to trust the data, right? So that you believe in it and you are able to use it in the context of decision making. So decision intelligence originates from the trust you have on the data. And there could be a lot of reasons for that to be questioned in today's world, and that is one of the reasons why we are starting off this webinar. If you really can't trust your data, how are you going to monetize that data? How are you going to productize that data? And how you are going to enhance the value proposition for your own enterprise by sharing that data with your partners? Right? So how does that happen? Right? That is the question which we want to answer, and also learn from these experts to understand what they are seeing in their own experience and expertise across industry verticals about data sharing, and what are the trends today, and what we are going to look at from a futuristic point of view. These are the kind of questions we want to answer. So let me welcome Pawan, Ravi, and Devashish to this. And I'll start with a common question to all of you. And you have been experts across the industry domains, right? So how do you see data sharing as a capability or a competency in the organizational system? How are you seeing data sharing, whether it is providing a competitive advantage to the organization, or it is being looked at as something of a mandate or a regulatory obligation? Since Pawan, you are on screen, I'll probably start with you. What is your view on that? You're on mute, Pawan.
Yeah. So thanks Nivrutti, and thanks everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining. So let me begin with a paradox where we today live with. So we observe that a customer wants a Netflix type of a personalization where they see the recommendation instantly, they get some suggestions instantly, but at the same time they want Apple level kind of a privacy, so that their privacy, their informations that has been very well respected, very well used, and very well, in fact, destroyed as well whenever it is required. So customer, what they want is, yes, they want enterprise to know them very well, but at the same time they want not to follow them. Not to pepperize them with a lot of inquiries, a lot of hanging and all. Uh, so that's the thing. So in this entire data sharing, designing data trust for personalization and bringing the considering the design, considering the regulations, not the blockers. Rather, these are the design constraints we should consider when we architect some data sharing related solutions. So that's what I personally feel.
Thanks, Pawan. I think hyper personalization is what you are primarily focusing on. Yeah, Debashish, what's your view? How do you see data sharing across
Yeah.
domains?
So yeah, thanks everybody. So I'll probably start from a step back. So I will start with the history of data sharing. So data sharing is not new. I mean, it has always been there for at least for decades, right? All the credit scoring firms, Experian, Equifax, they have been sharing the credit score data with banks, NBFCs. Supply chain is sharing data with these partners. In fact, stock exchanges sharing data with all the broker firms. So that has always been there. So how it is changing? Why we are talking about this today in this webinar? So it is shifting from a particular shape that it was copying and transferring data. One enterprise copying and transferring data to another enterprise. So it is moving away from that philosophy to a different philosophy where we are granting access, a consent based access basically. So, it's not just access, but based on a data contract, what sort of data, what sort of insight another organization is supposed to see. So that's the paradigm shift, and it is real time, it is secure, it is interoperable, and it is reusable. Right, so these are the paradigm shift that we are seeing in the data sharing part. Now, to answer the question that anybody had asked, whether is it about competitive advantage, is it a necessity, or as a regulatory obligation? So I would say it is a combination of all. I mean, it depends on the context, industry context, and the maturity of the particular industry. For example, banking, healthcare, energy, and then public sector enterprises, they are highly regulated. So obviously, data sharing is going to be a regulated obligation. For tech giants I'll not name the companies, but tech giants and the consumer brands, they would like to share data to get competitive advantage. They want to stay ahead of the curve. And similarly, for ecosystem-driven industries like manufacturing or a travel industry or a manufacturing industry, where multiple companies have to work together, for their BAU operations. So there it is operational necessity. So now, is it like all competitive advantage, regulatory obligation, or necessity, or is beyond that? So now in today's world, in AI and agentic AI world, it is not just these three parameters. It is about, if they would like to fuel the next leg of growth, then this is absolutely mandatory. It's not only about getting access to the data or sharing data. It is about having right trust, interoperability, and semantic consistency. So the data that a particular retail giant is sharing with all its vendors, whether they are all are getting the similar type of view of that data or not, whether data sovereignty is not being compromised, data privacy is enforced, PI attributes are masked, and all those elements are coming into play now, and that's how the data sharing, the world of data sharing is evolving. Yeah, I'll end it here.
Okay. Thanks, Debashish. Yeah, Ravi, what's your view? Anything different you want to add?
Yeah, yes, sir. So yeah, I think almost Pawan and Devashish has covered it. Apart from that, I see a different dimension of it moving forward. So data sharing is really important in the current environment, considering the having your data in your data warehouse or having a silos rather than having a federated data with your partner ecosystem, and how you can really enable it to a 3x or a 4x of your business improvement is what the sharing is always mean by. And for that, I see the latest agents and all, which is like a synthetic data generations and all. These all are the one which will really help to get rid of the existing the guardrails of legal issues wherein your PII data and all to be having a like GDPR and HIPAA related, these
Hello,
constraints to
very good
get rid of.
afternoon, Prerna. Yeah, anything important? I'm on a meeting.
Okay, please continue, Ravi.
Yeah. So to get rid of it, as if we are generating synthetic data that will really help to ensure that the actual personal information is not being passed. So these all are the one which we can see as data sharing emerging in a much more advanced way. So what the benefit is monetization of the end of the day. The data sharing is multiple ways to um, benefit your business in a multiple extensive way exponentially 3x 4x times versus the other way of seeing the data sharing is sharing your data as a service or platform as a service or monetization. These all are the things which will really help ensure that the business gets a good hold of uh, the market as well. That's what I see. That's my vision.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Ravi, for that quick overview across the globe. So, from a global perspective, Devashish, when you look at the attitude, how organizations are thinking about or feeling about data sharing, and when you look at the that from a regional perspective, right, and whether it's Europe where it is highly regulated versus America where it is probably in some states highly regulated versus other states it's still in question. Whereas if you look at Asia Pacific, it's a mixed bag. China is very
Right.
strict with data regulations, right? And India is still starting off, I would say, with the DPDP Act. So how do you see this data sharing currently being practiced across these regions?
Yeah, so you are right, Nivarti. So the trend is obviously different across regions. So North America is ahead of the curve. I mean, they have already, is innovation led and growth oriented. So they want to get competitive advantage. So all the MNCs that work upwards out of North America, we see high adoption of data exchanges, data clean rooms, and zero copy sharing and all those concepts. So they are probably 2 years mature already. Their AI ecosystem is very mature. They are move ahead of the experimentation phase. They are implementing in real these days. Whereas if on Europe, it is regulatory obligation driven. It is I would say cautious value creation. They are gradually adopting it, but comparatively slower. But does it mean that they are not adapting? They are adapting. They are more structured. They're more, they want to govern the data sharing more stringently because they have GDPR and then data sovereignty and privacy culture within a lot of European countries. So that's why they are cautiously optimistic and taking a more structured and slower approach. And for APAC, it is very uneven, and it is basically necessity driven. As Nivedha, you just touched upon that. China has a more strict regulatory rules, compliance rules. India, Singapore, Japan, a lot of countries have their different level of diverse regulations. So and also what is the level of maturity of that data digital infrastructure, right? So that is another parameter. So India, as a market, it is quite advanced in digital infrastructure. So we are seeing a lot of traction on that, if not on B2B side, but at least on the B2C side. There we're seeing a lot of data sharing, especially for hyper personalization. Yeah, and other markets like Middle East, LATAM, they are startups. I mean, they are probably emerging markets. Their data maturity is not at that level. They are the regulations are also not not I would say conducive for this kind of data sharing, data exchanges kind of philosophy. So they are still catching up, I would say. But yeah, I mean, still at a very initial stage for those regions.
And Ravi, you talked about monetization, right? So when you look at the B2B ecosystem as a whole, and you touched upon data as a service as well as platform fees or sharing of revenues between multiple organizations. So when you look at these models, monetization models, right? So across B2B specifically, when you talk about ecosystems, how do you see or what type of models you are seeing emerging today?
Yeah. So monetization is at different ways of doing it. Is it like a DaaS, data as a service, and then platform licensing, and and revenue sharing. So there are different ways it has been started initially as a basic need, and then later on emerged as why can't we monetize it, and then why can't we have a revenue sharing is what the trend has been seen in the data sharing models of it, monetization. So what happens is data as a service. If for example, if we start with data as a service, some of the companies, what they do is they build as a product. The data is being packaged as product, and then they've been using it or sharing with their partners, and they used to charge for it. So for example, what happens is the main advantage or limitation of it is, advantage is when for example a telecom company is been sharing with their network partners and all, what happens, whenever they have done, they will be getting a recurring revenue out of it. However, the flip side of it, when we see that requires a continuous enrichment of the data and all. So the data as a service, there you have a lot many competitors in the world right now. The data as a product, you get it, but the pain area is how you are efficient, compete on it with respect to the other competitors. And secondly, the data needs to be always, it should be enriched at the due course of time. That is one aspect which we have seen as a data as a service. The next comes is, if you are going with platform as a service, so we have a fleet of cloud platforms, AWS, Azure, and then Snowflake, Databricks. They do have a marketplaces, and then AWS marketplace and all. What they do is they give as a whole of a package of it, where you do a subscription of it, and then you can use the their what is that, benefits out of it. However, here what you do is, you do as a fee, you pay for your platform related, and then you utilize them. That is the difference between a single enabling as a data as a product. The next level is what has come up with as called as your platform service, and then you are going to charge for your ecosystem fee. That is how it is happening. However, uh, um, the next level what we have seen in the emerging world right now is a step ahead of it. Why can't we not a charge for the product what we give, sell it, or charge a certain fee for the market as a fleet of platform, rather than we take the revenue share of it. So for example, if you consider media, the media, what it does, one of the uh, any North America company, media company, what they have done is the viewer demographics, that they are going to share it with the ad agencies and all. However, what happens, what is the benefit of it is, based on the viewer demographics, the ads are being placed, and whenever the revenue is enabled, that revenue is being shared between not only the your ad agency, but also to the media company as well. So that's sharing is being done. So this is what will be a long-term sustaining activity. So this will really benefit it, a win-win situation for your partner as well as you, to have an additional continuous revenue. So key takeaways is, one is continuous revenue, which you will not have a competitors. Reason being is, you are being a trusted partner for your trusted fellow for your partner, and secondly, you can share your data in a higher and a deeper way of your data can be connected with them on the trusted lines of it.
Great points. And when you talked about data sharing, right, and the revenue sharing part, I remember one of the instances in Australia where Google really was challenged, because Google uses everybody's information that is around the web, right? It just scrolls and collects information, and that's their money making plan. Okay, so that was challenged, and Google themselves wanted to really stop all their services to Australia as a country. But then Australia stood firm, and they demanded that whenever they consume the news with from all the people around the Australian country, the newsmakers, the local newsmakers. So it's very much possible that the revenue sharing happens. So that's something which we have seen as well from the organization's perspective. So just a point I thought that would help as well here. Okay, so moving on to probably, Ravi, just another question. I think it aligns with what you were talking about as barriers also, and there is a question from Bharat too on that. What are the challenges to the enterprises when they are thinking about sharing data, whether it's part with their partners or with the ecosystem? For example, we talk about our phone listens, isn't it? I think each of us have experienced that, whoever is attending here or all of us. When you have a phone you're by your side and if you're discussing your next holiday plan to Switzerland, probably you all are earning well. So for summers, and suddenly you go to Instagram and Facebook and you will find all the ads related to your Switzerland as well as a tourist destination. So from that, it means that it's not just listening, it's also sharing the data across Google and Meta, right? So across the social media platforms. So what are the challenges do you think the organizations face? That's one of the questions. And also possibly, Devashish, you can touch on the same point because you talked about consent management, right?
Yeah.
So how do you manage the consent of the people? Because it's our data ultimately, if you that the organizations are sharing across, and I don't know where all my data goes, or you don't know where all your data goes. So how do you see that? Probably we'll start with you, Ravi, first, and then go to Devashish on the consent management challenge.
Yeah, sure, sure. So data, what happens is data when it comes to the data sharing. So I see the major challenge is the one of the major challenge I see is compliance and regulatory. That should be one which we need to really look into. Or the nowadays the countries are really coming up with localizations and ensure that the regulatories are being tightened on day by day. Considering, see, say about the recent issues happening with America and the China related either trade wars or the indirect wars happening nowadays. Every country is really looking for what is happening with my data. I want to have my data as my domestic means my sovereignty of my data. It should be in my local itself. So considering this, even India has come for with sorry.
DPDP Act.
Yeah, DPDPR, digital data.
Digital Personal Data Protection Act. I think we just probably lost Ravi there. Uh, the intent, I think what he was saying was, the regulations are one of the biggest challenges, and localization of data is one of the challenges that we have to face whenever you're especially working with data that could be shared across the regions. And I think one of the, again, very famous examples that comes out is Meta being fined 3 billion euros by European Union when they were not in compliance with the data, privacy requirements, from a GDPR perspective. So it could be regulatory, but the impact to organizations could be monetary as well as reputational as well. So Pawan, you wanted to add something? I see your hand up, and then we go to Debashish for consent management.
Yeah, I just wanted to extend the point which you and Ravi were making related to the consent management. So the things are coming up like dynamic consent, managing the consent dynamically based on the user behavior. For example, suppose consider a scenario where a fintech company, when user does some shopping, online shopping, or goes to retailer do some shopping. So consent, if it's a high value transaction, then they will ask for certain additional security over there, additional information before making the transaction complete. So if it's a high value transaction, if it's a low value transaction, within certain threshold limit, then the consent will be automatically used. So one portion of this. So it's not always agree kind of a thing. It's not always allowed kind of a thing. Rather, based on the scenarios, based on the behavior of the users, the spend pattern in that consent will be dynamically adjusted. That's what my point is.
Okay, thank you, Pawan. Yeah, Debashish.
Yeah, so probably because Pawan touched upon the consent management, I'll go a little beyond that. So you know, if I just take the cue from what the question that Bharat had asked, that what are the challenges? So if I just talk about B2B, so B2C, obviously we know that a lot of information we share over the internet, and then that goes, we don't really pay attention to the consents that we clicking. I mean, we click agree, and then we don't know exactly what that does it mean. And then a lot of information goes, the companies collect a lot of information, and we don't really have a control of how they're being used or misused. So that problem is always there. So any good thing has both sides of the coin, right? I mean, you'll see positive side of it and the negative side of it. But if I just talk about B2B scenarios, so in past, they always had that apprehension that of data theft. So one company, they were always apprehensive that why would I share the data? And that's why this zero copy data sharing, the data clean rooms, these technologies have come up quite rapidly, because here you don't share the data, you just share the insight, right? You build a secure data platform, you keep the data within yourself, you sign a data contract, and you give permission to a particular organization that you can access this bit of insight from my data. You are not going to get my data, you cannot misuse with my data. You will only get what is the, say for a retail company, what is the customer behavior within the store. So you don't get to see what I as a customer do in a store. You will see as a collective unit, a guy like Devashish at this particular age, for this profile, what is the behavior pattern, right? So that bit details you see. Similarly, for classic example in a healthcare organization, provider and insurer, right? So there, if they don't exchange data, they'll not survive. So the clinical practices, the claims, patterns, they have to share with each other. So they have now gone ahead, probably moved ahead of the apprehension, and then now they are using all those data marketplace solution that Pawan also touched upon, Ravi touched upon that all the hyperscalers and Databricks, Snowflake, data cloud platforms have come up their own data marketplace solution and the DCR solution, right? So these are a plug and play kind of a thing. You can build a very secured platform. You just only share the insights without exposing the data. There are ample ways to anonymize your PCI, PHI, or any sort of personal information that generally has. So that way, there are challenges. Obviously, the compliance, the privacy, these are the challenges. But there are ways to get rid of those, get around those challenges as well in the industry today, Bharat.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that, all of you. So I also see, Bharat, since there is a follow-up question that you have put around convincing the clients or the customers, I think one of the significant aspects there is being transparent about what you are collecting the data for and what it is being used for. That's one of the very important elements to build the trust with your clients and actually using it for the purpose for which it is collected, right? So and that is where the customer trust factor can be built consistently, and that will convince the clients to probably be more open to sharing their data. So that's one of the challenges we can address. And then moving forward with that, I think Pawan, you touched upon the hyper personalization, right? Now when you talk about hyper personalization versus the privacy part, right? So then when you talk about these two, uh, do you see any interplay between those? Because you talk about hyper personalization, then you have to understand my behavioral patterns and as well as what sort of information you are knowing about myself to personalize it specifically to me, right? So that's something which could be a positive thing or a constraint. How do you see that?
Yeah, certainly. So certainly the thing is, it's an act of balancing personalization versus privacy. how do you balance this? So the thing is, customer expect intentive, predictive experience, but as I mentioned, they also expect respect, control, and honesty. So let me quote a scenario and how if I want to balance or design a system which will balance personalization and privacy, what should be the design pillars that we should consider. So first, let me quote one scenario. For example, consider a retailer, a fintech company who is ready to lend some money to the customer, and a telecom operator. They collaborate to deliver a festive reason hyper personalization experience like the big billion day sale or the festive seasons sales that we, or Independence Day or Freedom Sale that we generally came across. So this is the scenario. You have three different companies or three different organizations, a retailer, a fintech company, a telecom operator. They are collaborating. They want to combine their spending patterns, device signals, purchase behavior, but at the same time they must comply with the GDPR or any regulation act like DPDP act in India. So I want to design a system which will entrust the data, but at the same time it delivers the personalization. So the four design principles that we should consider is, first and foremost, is the privacy by design, right? So privacy, but nowadays is not a checklist; it's a mindset. So don't think uh, don't think like people will go and read paragraphs and paragraphs of privacy information. Rather, they should be given some crisp info thing. That is so to do that, the price the information which is related to privacy, the summary of that it should be the proper. The second important thing is the zero friction UX. So for example, if a retail app greets the user with an instant recommendation for the festive offers that he has, instant recommendation that can be given based on the past experience or past purchases. So that's something called a zero friction UX. So the days are gone where user has been prompted to ask 15-20 different questions for to collect unnecessary data. So based on his behavior, his past purchases, the instant recommendation can be provided. So this is a zero friction UX. The third one is the transparency. Seamless transparency is what the customer is relying. Uh, uh, so what we learn from WhatsApp 2021 privacy backlash, see, is if there is unclear communication, that instantly erodes the trust, or that instantly decrease the trust within an application. So I'll just quickly touch upon the WhatsApp 2021 privacy policy backlash. You may Google this. But what happened in 2021? Meta came up with a privacy policy. It's kind of a use it or agree it or leave it. If you
Yeah.
agree, so what it does is it is asking the user's consent. Yes, they are giving permission for Meta or WhatsApp to capture their IP addresses, their other informations, the data that they are sharing. So that's the thing. That was the privacy policy, but it was very well objected by so many people. There were a lot of lawsuits that were filed again, and they have to remove that policy. So radical transparency, or the transparency is very important. And dynamic consent, I just mentioned a few minutes back, where fintech only asks for the information when it is needed. Nothing is like a permanently always allowed kind of thing. So these are four design pillars when we try to do the hyper personalization at the same time respect the privacy of the users. The first one is privacy by design, zero friction US, the transparency, and the dynamic consent. So that's the main thing.
Yeah, and there is a question around, I think, data clean rooms here. And Debashish, we were talking about this. So, what are the technologies that you see which can really help the, the mainstream enterprises adopt the, data sharing, like federated learning or differential privacy, or data clean rooms or secure data clean rooms. So, would these help in probably making the data sharing much more easier, safer, and fruitful?
Yeah, certainly for data clean room for sure, because I am seeing a lot of traction in that area. Particularly in the retail, healthcare, and banking domains. So if you carefully see the principle on which data clean room is built, it is basically a clean room in a way. The name suggests that it is clean in a way. It is clean from being data being stolen. Okay, so it is your data, your account, cloud account, your area where you are putting the data, and then there is a very smart way of exposing your insight. It is not even through a view or through a flat file or a CSV file. It is based on a agreed template of a query, and that template is also created based on the contract that both the organizations sign. So that way that this is the information, not even the raw data, but this is the information which is going to be used. So from that perspective, there is absolutely no question of any data theft here in the clean room. And here the clean room, the benefit is that it's not one-way sharing. It is basically data exchange. So A and B, both the organization can exchange insights. So for example, a retail company is heavily dependent on a company which produces the apparels, right? It sells. So the apparel company has to know exactly which are the type of dresses are getting sold for which age group. That insight they are pretty much interested in. And similarly, retail company wants to know what is how quickly you can supply particular set of products for a particular for a festive season that is coming up, right? So they would also like to have a view that what is their production rate based on their own insight, that I forecast that this particular set of products are going to be sold more in upcoming months. So that's the very important thing. And another benefit of DCR is you set up DCR just once, and it works in a pub sub kind of a model. So you keep on adding new subscribers to your DCR. You just sign a new contract, build a new template. Your data resides at the only one place. You don't copy the data in multiple places. You just create multiple templates for multiple subscribers, and they will get access to that bit of information. Okay, so that's the benefit, and DCR is really, I would say, a giant step towards data sharing. I'm not saying that all the organizations are gung ho about it and they are jumping into it. No, obviously people think twice whenever they are sharing data, because the data is the wild, people call it. They all want to own it. And sharing data is a new concept, but yeah, I mean, after going through all these details, when you go and share our POV about this DCR, we have seen good positive response from the client. So they are now more open and they're adopting it. Coming to the federated learning, so here there is an interesting trend. I mean, yeah.
I just want to add a few points on this, Devashi.
Yes,
As if
right.
we are talking on the clean room related. As you mentioned, clean rooms are safe. Federating the data is very much easy, seamless, and then secured with the policies enforcement. Mean that what we are talking here, data sharing with the clean room means technology enforcement, first thing. Secondly, we are telling about the policies enforcement, which is governance, plays a vital role. What policies and what is that the treaty between both the parties. And third thing is, for example, if it is a cross-border sharing, and if it is a pharma or I mean healthcare or life sciences and all, the policies which are there, which are like HIPAA and then GDPR, DPDPA, which has been started in India in 2023. So these all are which need to be compliant. All these things, when we have kept in line, the main issue is what is the barrier is not technology. The barrier is mainly the data sharing. For why most of the organizations take a backseat is different domain related organizations have different issues. Mean, for example, if we take healthcare, they are mainly the sharing of the real time patient's information from exposing it will be a complaint issue. Means they have a lot much regulatory issues, which for that they take a backseat of it. First thing means pharma and life science companies. Secondly, when we come with the governance related, what data needs to be shared? If the data shared is something is being misused, who is being responsible for it? And third thing is, if the data needs to be sent out, what the other party is doing it, even though they sign it. So these all are the things which normally the banking sectors and finance sectors are really worried of it. Because of that, technology is nowadays, it's not a barrier. I mean, I just want to put a word is, it's not a technology, because you have clean rooms, you have a API sharing, and you have APIs for applications and all sharing, and you have synthetic data has come in place. These all levers considering, still companies are taking a backseat because of these things: governance, security issues, security and compliance, and fear of sharing the data. What happens if I share? My competitor may know more about my business than me. Correct? So
yeah, and precisely just to add to that fear, right? So I know. So the example that I was quoting, that it is between two different industries. So they are not competitive to each other. But for example, I can produce a particular product and I sell it to retailer one. I again can sell the same product to a retailer two. So now if I exchange information with retailer one, so retailer one fears that the information that I am sharing with him, because he's also supplying to retailer two, so I will also get into the similar kind of agreement and I'll go and share the computer information. So these appearances are always there. I mean, this is a fact.
Yeah.
But having said that, still we are seeing lot more openness and higher adoption rate, at least in the last 1.5 years. So that's the clear trend shift that I'm seeing.
And whatever you people are highlighting brings up two questions, right? So where does the ownership lie? And that's an interesting point Ravi brought out, to say, if for lack of, I'll just take names, just random, nothing related, right? If let's say IKEA is sharing data with Meta, just randomly, right? So I went and bought something, and suddenly it's like you swipe your credit card. Or I'll give you a real-time example. I went to a doctor about 1 month back, okay, for a consulting, and suddenly he asked me that you have to get this test done. I'm just getting out of the the hospital, and I'm getting at least 20 WhatsApp messages and at least 5 to 6 calls from labs to say that we can conduct this test for you. Where does the ownership lie? Because I am not given any consent to share my data, number one. I'm not given consent even if the data is shared, my intent to get the test done. So there are a lot of complications that arise in terms of the ownership for my data, because I'm becoming the product here, right? And I'm being sold without my consent, without my intent, right? So it was just as advice. A doctor gives an advice. Whether I go by that advice or not is my decision. But then the data is shared with almost everybody in that domain. So first question is, where does the ownership lie? Is the one question. And the second is, how does, I think that's where consent management is playing big part, and we are going to see in DPDPA consent management is being managed at a very, very high level. So I just want to understand those two elements, right? What is the boundary of data sharing? Where do you draw the line to say, I will not share, like you have been touching upon the sensitivity of the data, which should be shared, which should not be shared. And where does if once I give you data, where does the ownership lie? Does it lie with you? Or does it lie on the data contract that is between you and your partner, which I never worry about? And if I have to sue somebody tomorrow, who should that be, right?
Mhm.
Everybody.
Definitely. As you bring up sorry, Nivriti, the same thing happened. My son appeared for the board exams, 10th board. Now every day I get 20 calls from different colleges. Hey, our college is so and so XYZ, and then we do have this type of staff. Can you get your son on board? Means get into your college and all. Every day I get 20, 30 calls. Definitely, really, the data is right now is being passed in between, and it is not, as you rightly said. Now earlier is why my data being shared, and we are just as a viewers, we don't have anything to penal them. Now the rules are getting changed, as if there are heavy um, uh, fines will be posed on it, and then they can be penal. For the reason, these all are the legal regulatory boards are being coming up, emerging with every country right now, so that if something happens, definitely we can sue them. First thing. Secondly, if the companies, as if you have mentioned, the companies, when they want to uh, do a data share across the borders and all, or across the regions, when they go with this legalization, this type of process, initially that may take little time to get on to the board. Reason being, they need to go with a lot many approvals, and the way they are storing the data within localization versus globalization, all these will come in. But at a long run, what happens is they will gain the customer confidence. Hey, this is been approved by GDPR, this has been approved by HIPAA, and then this be approved by DPDPA. This gives a trust for them, and their business can grow in a confident way. That gives us a confidence that, hey, this is FASI approved food which I can consume. That is what, as a thing, I have seen it. Yeah. And I'll take a back seat. Yeah.
Pawan, I think you wanted to add something, and then we'll go to the Vashish.
Yes. Yes. So all this boils down to something called as a purpose limitation, right?
Right.
So do not sell my data rules. So California Consumer Protection Act, they came up with do not sell my data kind of a rule. Even GDPR also, that mandates data collected for KYC cannot be repurposed for the marketing. So same the example which Ravi or you were quoting. So we give the data for one particular purpose, it will be used for the other thing. So here the consent portability, where if the customer revokes the consent, the preferences propagate all across the partners. So these are the 2 points. If we want to limit the sharing of a data in this particular scenario.
Yeah, we'll hear from Debashish, and what you are telling also brings out a point. How many organizations maintain the traceability to say that, okay, once my data is shared with XYZ, where all my data is flowing, even in our own organizations, how many organizations can really stand up and say which all systems the employee data is stored in? Because the right to forget is also one of the significant aspects of data privacy today. So that's another question that comes up. One is traceability, and of course traceability addresses most of that as well. Yeah, Debashish.
Yeah, so staying on the same point, so why governance, stronger governance, and these compliance rules are important. In today's world, it is not only about different systems, different platforms. It is about AI, right? So this data is not shared with the partners anymore. They are being shared with the agent networks as well. So just imagine that your data, which you have not given consent to, is consumed by AI, and it will reach the entire world in a fraction of a second. And so this is one part of the risk. Another part of the risk is that if there is no governance control on the data being shared, then there is every possibility that wrong data is also going to be shared, and which will hallucinate the AI models as well, and that will have impact on the model outcomes. So this is a long chain of wrong things happening if there is not strong governance on what to share and where to share and how much to share. So that's where these all the compliance rules across the globe Ravi highlighted is coming up, But I think it is a reactive step, not a proactive step. It should have come before the advent of this data sharing, this uncontrolled data sharing. But it's better than late than never. So at least it is coming up. So I hope, Nibriti, to answer your question, who should put our gun on. That is again a very difficult question to answer, because we sometimes we don't even understand where exactly this data was shared, who took
Right.
our data, and how it was reached that particular party. So that's why governance is very, very important in today's world context. Yeah.
And others, all those people who are attending, if you have any questions, please continue to put them on the chat, and we'll try to see where to integrate and how to integrate. And continuing with that AI part which you started, Devashish, and AI is everywhere today, right? So you're talking about AI in everything that you do. So in that context, when you talk about data sharing and how, when, let's say today I applied for a loan, I'm just putting myself on the spot all the time so that it's not an issue. So if I apply for a loan and my loan is rejected by one bank, okay, let's take that as a scenario for whatever XYZ reasons. Now that data gets shared across the financial system, correct?
Yeah.
Does that not take away my my right for a loan? It may be due to a problem with the manager or with my credit score XYZ. Leave the reasons out. But that data sharing without again the consent part coming in across the ecosystem will also lead to biases in decision making, correct? The question is, does the past behavior always predict the future behaviors of a client? And the sharing of the past patterns, that influence the future decision intelligence from that perspective? Yeah,
Yeah.
Ravi.
So yeah, Ravi,
Go ahead.
let me speak for a minute, and then you can take over. Okay. So
Yeah, sure.
Nivriti, so basically this is I'll probably move away from the topic data sharing. I'll probably go to the personalization bit. So the example you just said, that it may be because of a particular situation. Now I'm saying, they say I was not able to pay a particular EMI on a particular date. My credit score goes down, and then that has knock-on impact on all my future loans. But that was one off incident, and I think where uh, as a whole the ecosystem lacks is that it is static personalization. It is not a dynamic personalization. It is probably it keeps a snapshot. It tags a persona to me that I have a low credit score, and that remains. It doesn't dynamically change. Okay, my financial health has improved for next quarter or so. So there has to be a corrective action on my credit score, but that generally doesn't happen. And you're right saying that that for that particular thing, but that particular incident, all my future loans will be rejected. So that's one thing. And for the other thing, like the other example that you just quoted, that it can be on an individual basis, that somehow that particular bank or bank manager, there was some personal equation because of which my loan was rejected. So those things, I guess, they are not shared with the scoring form. So that may not possibly be, that ideally should not be shared with any of the other NBFCs or banks. If it is related to your credit score, which is obviously the true reflection, or at least the point in time reflection of my credit score, so that generally gets shared, and that is rightly so. I mean, that I guess there I don't see any issue in sharing the data. But having said that, there has to be a dynamic personalization as well, which should go and course correct the credit score that has already got messed up because of one incident. That should automatically course correct, and then in the next quarter or so. But that doesn't happen. Yeah, Abhi, over to you.
Yeah, Ravi.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. Most of the things Debashish covered, as you mentioned. Nivriti, what you asked as either banking and financial companies sharing the bad actor fellows, means like a behavioral data or a transactional data related with the other fintech companies or fraud bureaus, detecting bureaus and all. What happens is only the credit score. Is that what it gives? Is there in if I see in US as well, the credit score plays a vital role. So always that should be there to which should pull the normal guys to ensure that the things are on track and you are maintaining the credit score. That always reflects your what is that credibility of your maintaining your loans and paying on time, and also that if not, the other company which should not be a scapegoat for the no reason of the similar things and all. I hope that is correct, but rest all details not to be shared maybe. But these details definitely that helps the other financial institutions not to award him any other loans or anything, to take really an action. It's not that one EMI, if I fail, my credit score completely topples. It is there is a sequence of steps where you fail so that your score goes on completely down. So that definitely helps the financial organizations. I take
No,
a
absolutely. I think the staying with the Gen AI part, right? So the data that we are using today to train the models, how can we rely on that data is one question, right? And then how do you ensure the ethical part and the biases? Because when you build models, inadvertently our unconscious biases do flow into that model, whatever we are creating, right? So, and the data that is being, the model is trained on, that also induces certain biases. So how do you really make sure that the data, and if you are training that model on data that is shared by another organization, you're actually inducing biases across the ecosystem as well, right? So how do you ensure, probably data governance is one part, but what other elements can you think of? Is synthetic data helpful rather than using cross domain data or cross enterprise data to train the models? What other things come to your mind? Yeah, Pawan, I'll start with you first.
Yeah, certainly, Gen AI or AI agents, they are changing the way we are behaving. Uh, Even the data we are treating with the data. So I see it's a two-part thing. One is we have a privacy-related challenges, and how Gen AI changes the economics related to the data. So for example, challenges like we have a lot of examples related to hallucination that may expose to incorrect data, or that will create some convincing personal inferences. Or we if a model being trained with certain trained data set, what is the origin of that trained data set, that is unclear. So this is also one of the challenge. Then if we are using an agentic ecosystem where you have multimodal models which continuously memorizes some text or voices or even the user interaction. These are some privacy related challenges. How Gen AI enables or how Gen AI can help us? Obviously, yes, as you rightly said, Nirati, through synthetic data. For example, I'll just continue with the example of fintech company. So, if synthetic data being created, the fintech companies will use the synthetic data to test the credit models without exposing the real customer examples or real customer data. Then we can or Gen AI, with Gen AI we can create a federated RAG that allows retailers to query the partner insights without accessing the raw data. Okay, so they'll access the insights. I think Devashish was mentioning to provide the insight, not the raw data. So the federated RAG will solve this kind of thing. And last and important is where the AI-driven anonymization. So with AI-driven anonymization, you can quickly, fast, and makes multiple data sets safer, cheaper, that can be shared all across. So Gen AI or AI will reduce the cost of intelligence, but raises the cost of governance. but yeah, it will address some of the privacy challenges that I just mentioned.
Okay, wonderful. I think one of the probably the last questions or topic that we wanted to discuss around this before we ask the people for any questions from their side. How do you see an enterprise that is ready for data sharing means in future, especially considering the AI maturity as an enterprise, or you talk about the governance that is referred to, the consent management, or even the data protection laws that come into the picture. From all of this, how would a future ready enterprise look like from a data sharing perspective? What are the key ingredients? Let's not go. I think you are all architectural experts. Let's not go into the deep digging of what it looks like from a solutioning point of view. But if you have to pick the large pillars that could really shape a future ready enterprise from a data sharing perspective, what are your thoughts?
Uh, mm, Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll just start with something called as a utopian world. Okay, ideal world, where I feel the enterprise, they think of a data trust score, because we understand that customer picks brands which has a clean breach history, which has a clean user control, right? Which follows the ethical UI, ethical AI, and there is no dark pattern, there is no hidden secrets related to the data collection or data capturing and all, and transparent AI model. So data trust becomes is not just a compliance; it's a competitive advantage when we build the data trust driven system which will enable the data modernization. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you. Ravi or Devashish?
Yeah. So in future, definitely, AI is everywhere. It is getting infused. Without AI, you don't have anything else. Even tomorrow, teams will completely be harnessed by AI. There is no wonder of it. So considering it, there will be, as you mentioned, rightly mentioned, the governance and ethical way of using the AI as part of it is definitely plays a vital role. And secondly, as if we are mentioning that the localization is happening, that is what I feel see the future of more of the data will be having lot much should be resided in the local, and then it should be federated using ethical way of AI leveraging. And if I see in the down the lane, maybe in the 5 years, there will be more of AI agents which will be interacting with the AI to get the data sharing and all. That will be AI to AI rather than with a lean human intervention is what I see. I'll take a pass. Yeah.
Just on the lighter note, I don't know how many of you noticed. I read a news article recently that there is a social media platform that AI agents created for themselves. Right, even human cannot enter that platform, and they are engaging in sharing their experiences of human interaction, how humans are interacting with the agents, right? So sometimes it looks scary, right? So your data
Yeah.
is being shared, your behavioral patterns are being shared within the machines without any governance at play, without any understanding of what is happening in that ecosystem. So just an interesting article and experimentation I read through a few
Yeah,
days.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
just to, as if you brought this, not related to the subject, but I recollect my childhood movies and all this. My kids used to Transformers. So that's how what you are mentioning.
Yeah.
So tomorrow we don't know, the machines will control us.
yeah.
Very,
Actually, the thing is why people, human cannot enter into that AI, agent-based social media platform, because the captcha that they have put, it's only done by the agents only. For example, they want us to click a particular images 10,000 times within 5 seconds. So human cannot do that, right? So that
correct.
kind of
What
where,
I
So,
mean
where
is,
so we used to create captchas so that an agents cannot log in. Now they are
no,
getting
it's
captchas.
other way around.
not After some time, you have to prove you are not human. Right?
Definitely. And see that for the say, definitely I am a bit worried in the future. Maybe that may not happen as a transformers, but I see that agents will definitely will control the human activities as well. Right now itself, if you see, for example, writing a mail, immediately you are being biased of taking the help of Copilot to rephrase it. Then yes, I'll tell, hey, join the meeting. When I rephrase, it will put it in a sugar-coated way politely and then give it in a shorten, or you condense it, or you give a long note of it, whatnot. Always as we go with the Google Maps, this is also becoming the same. And the same thing in the solutioning, and not on the flip side of it. Solutioning, when we do this much vast 20 plus years experience also, we again take a look of the second eye, hey, what the Google is saying, what is the Copilot is mentioning, or what the is giving that as a big brother, whether that is correct or not. We are really in a little dilemma of what we proposed versus what it is giving. Whether to balance it is what we are right now. Tomorrow will be completely flip to it, and then we take that as a first set. And I'm just envisioning
And
in
Ravi,
the
and I think
future.
with that we come back to the topic, because the example that you just quoted. So there also we are sharing knowledge,
Yes,
right?
that is.
So that is also knowledge sharing, and then sharing knowledge with the AI system, and they are basically like you. There are hundreds and thousands of solution architects who are taking help of either Gemini or Copilot or Perplexity and all those AI agents tools that we have in the market right now. So they are getting all the knowledge information from us, learning, and then helping others as well, right? So that's how we don't even know where and how we are sharing data and insights. So that's how it is. The whole ecosystem is about data sharing these days now.
Thank you. Thank
One
you.
last thing is,
Yeah. Go ahead, Ravi.
yeah, really enjoying the session. One last thing is the biased one. Mean, as you mentioned, ethical and all. As you mentioned, now the mantra is happening initially. Hey, Gen AI and agents creation. Later on, what happened? There is a big hit because of the agent started across the globe to share our personal details and everything across, and then getting onto it. Later on, it is ethical using on governance models, unbiased are the terms coming up with. So as you mentioned, the cloud providers and all, when we have those agents, when we search for some architecture or a suggestion, it will be little slightly biased of their own. Definitely, the terms are good, but to what extent there should be a proper governance, or the rule should come in, or the act should come in place, enforcement saying that that should go unbiasedly a particular board of licensing or approval, then only you can get onto it, rather than if my agent is unbiased or my product is unbiased, rather than that should get approval. So that gives the trust for everyone, as well as if how we are doing with GDPR and HIPAA. This type of mechanism should, I think that will in the near future we can expect much more guardrails on it.
Thank you. Thanks, Ravi. Thanks, Vishal, for sharing all those links to the external articles. I see that to be valuable for everybody. And last question, probably Sriman Rajagopalan, Sriraman, sorry. He has posted. It's more about looking at when there is a need for domain specific data. So either the options usually are you buy the data from certain people who have already are holding that data, or you generate synthetic data, or you rely on platforms to get the data. Right. So from that point of view, the question is, what's the best approach? My understanding is it's contextual to the what you are really looking to get out of that particular need for that data, and then it's also about what is the trade-off that you want to make in that context, like build versus generate versus buy, or what's the time, and the time criticality, all of those would influence what's the best approach to that. But as experts, what's your view? You want to add anything to that question?
Yeah, and that's why I call GenAI is going to scale up this data sharing thing, the whole game. So if you add option D, generate the data through GenAI. So it's a synthetic data, but it's more reliable. It is synthetic data, but it is more contextual. So, and that's why I say data sharing will reach its peak when we start leveraging GenAI. into this ecosystem. And it is the benefit here is that you get feel of a real data. At the same time, it is all anonymized, or it basically is as dummy. So that's why you don't have to buy it. You don't have to download it from those online platforms where traditionally we used to go and download files like New York taxi file for our analytics, all those stuff, right? Sample files. There is absolutely no need now with GenAI. So yeah, I mean, I'll probably let others speak, but yeah, I'll end it here.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Devashish, but at the same time, I agree with Nivarti. As you mentioned, it depends on case by case what type of the thing consumer is really expecting. Is it something a stale data of a particular product? For example, I mean, like banking. Is it behavioral data or a transaction data which is stale, which he want to have it? Then either synthetic data or a data as a product which has been exposed that can be leveraged. If he wants to have as a retailer and his product supplier, which should be, for example, a retailer company is there, Amazon sort of it, wherein once the stock is getting getting completed, finished, they should be immediately enabled, and then automatically the stalker should automatically get the stock filled in. For this, the real-time data sharing is definitely helpful. Synthetic data that all comes up with whereas you have a compliance regulatory things and all, definitely that may where is PII data involved, that will really plays a vital role until unless we really don't require a real actual data of it.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Raman, for that question. Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for the answers. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think that's it for today. From the time we have, I'll probably hand it back to Durai or anyone from Stackroot team who can come in and have any final thoughts, comments to address to the people. And thank you all experts for joining us and sharing your expertise and experience. Back to you, Durai.
Yeah, thanks, Nivarti. Thanks to all our speakers, Ravi, Pavan, and Devashish for very insightful session. Today's discussion, in fact, would have really brought how critical data sharing is becoming in the AI era. So maybe let me ask if there are any more questions, maybe one or two. If anybody has questions, we can take it, Nivarti, and then we'll get into the polls. Any other questions? Anybody? One last question. Anybody wants to ask?
It's not a question, but recently I came across one video on YouTube, and Ravi, it's related to the point you made. It's like agents are taking the interacting with the humans, and this is real. You can search on the YouTube. Copilot has conducted an interview of 3 stalwarts of Microsoft: Bill Gates, Satya Nadella, and Steve Ballmer. It's a 10-minute interview. It's kind of a must watch. And the Copilot generates the next question based on the response these stalwarts are given. Very interesting one. And the funny thing, he quoted the famous example where Microsoft 98, that blue screen of death, and what was the immediate reaction of Bill Gates at that time. Very interesting one. Thank you.
Thanks, Pavan, for sharing it.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have launched a quick poll. If you guys could